Alright, spoilers from here on in. This is the spoiler-full Deadpool and Wolverine review. We're going to be talking about everything that happens from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. And we're going to talk about stuff that is really specific. But really what I wanted to do, I've already made my review on Deadpool and Wolverine. Big picture, I think it's a good time. I had a lot of fun with it. There goes my cat jumping off my lap. Mortimer has other thoughts. He's got other things to do. But I had a good time with Deadpool and Wolverine. Obviously, it's not perfect, but like I think the things it gets right, it gets really right. And the main things that is jokes. And that's what matters in a comedy. Because I think Deadpool, Deadpool and Wolverine, all these movies feel more like comedies than any of the other Marvel Cinematic Universe movies that feel more like action comedies. So, oh my god, the Gambit's in danger. Mortimer wants to knock over Gambit. Oh boy. So basically, I think this movie, because it feels like it's a comedy, yes, you can leave going, is it a well-structured movie? Not really, or like this parts of it were a little strange. But overall, like if you laugh at the jokes, then I can't really fault the movie for that. I think about it like this. There's like a perfect version of this movie, and of every movie, where it is both incredibly funny, everything about it is funny, and the script has great character development and themes and everything comes together in a really concise way. Like I think there's some comedies that obviously do that, right? Liar Liar is a good one. Where like I think that's like a really tight comedy. Coming to America, one of the great comedies. But I guess for me, if this movie had an opportunity to characterize Deadpool in a more complete way, or add more backstory, add more personalization, or make a funny joke, I want a comedy to always go for the joke. Alright, even at the expense of the rest of the movie. I do think there's certain things that this movie maybe doesn't do as well that don't have anything to do with comedy, but I do think that's why I judge a comedy based on how much I laugh at it. And I do think there were quite a few good laughs that I got from this movie, as well as just like fun. This was a very fun movie, and I appreciate that. Alright, so now let's talk about actual spoilers. The movie has like a plot that's weird. I think we all can acknowledge like the plot of Deadpool and Wolverine is strange. They have to travel through the void. They go to Cassandra Nova, and then they leave Cassandra Nova, and immediately, well, first they find Nicepool, but then they find the gang of guys that's going to help them. And this is maybe, if there's a part of the movie that I think works the least well, it is this scene where everybody's talking at home base, Wolverine's drinking, and Blade, Elektra, Gambit, Laura, and Deadpool are trying to make a plan. Because at one point Deadpool says like, let's go get Cassandra Nova. And kind of out of nowhere, Elektra goes, you know what, screw it. I'm bored sitting here. Let's go fight Cassandra Nova. And it just feels like if we're talking about like character stuff, it just feels like there's something else there. There's something else bridging these two thoughts. This like, and I guess there's two things, right, that I'm thinking of. Which is one, how is this movie not about Deadpool assembling this team of leftover Avengers, turning them into something? Because that's Deadpool's whole thing. I want to matter. I don't matter. I have to do something special. Join the Avengers, that'll make me matter. Join the X-Men, that'll make me matter. But it doesn't. He feels really insignificant. So you would assume later there's going to be some point where Deadpool's going to learn mattering doesn't matter. Or mattering on your own terms is what matters. Or something like that. Play out where he's going to see Blade and Elektra and Gambit, and they're all going to have quit, that they're just not going to fight, and Deadpool's going to believe in them in a way that no one else could, because only Deadpool understands that there can be redemption. These character arcs don't have to end where they seem like they're going to, right? No one expected Deadpool would get another shot after X-Men Origins Wolverine, but he believed in himself and, took this minor character and turned it into this huge franchise, right? So you figure Deadpool bringing those characters to that point and saying like, you were Blade, you were the first one, whatever, that's gonna help him understand that he doesn't need to be an Avenger anymore. Kind of like Spider-Man Homecoming, where the whole thing is I want to be an Avenger, By the end of the movie, he has to reject the Avengers in favor of something else. And in Deadpool 2, he kind of had that moment where he made X-Force, he made his own team, but A, that just all got wiped away for no good reason, but B, that didn't come at like a character moment, that just came from like a, hey, we need a team to get together and do some stuff. I do think by the end he has assembled a team, but I guess that team is full of what you could kind of consider A-listers. You've got some X-Men, you've got Cable, he's a big name, whereas this, obviously Blade should be an A-lister, and Gambit and all these characters, but for whatever reason just didn't work. Something weird happened and they haven't come back into style yet. Deadpool should be able to see something that no one else can see. because he is like them in this really unique way. Unfortunately, in this movie, they just decide to do it anyway. They're like, you know what, you got out of Cassandra's? Screw it, let's go fight Cassandra Nova. Let's go, let's get in that van you have and just try to blow her up and then get the helmet or whatever. I don't care, we don't have a good plan. It's very, I don't know, it felt like that was the part of the movie when Johnny's like, there's this other team and other people where you go, oh, okay, that's how this is gonna go. That's how these teams are going to come together for Deadpool, believing in himself. He's going to believe in other people and then realize that, oh, everybody else believes in him, whatever. It's weird that they don't do that. At the same time, Wolverine has a character arc that I think goes nowhere, where he, and I don't think it goes nowhere because I do think Wolverine's character arc overall is good, but it gets resolved kind of here in a way that I found very strange. Wolverine is drinking, he doesn't want to join this team. Everybody's really excited, they're like, let's do it, let's go kill Cassandra Nova. And Wolverine's like, I don't wanna. He goes to the campfire, sits down, tells Laura all the bad stuff that happened, and she says, you never were the right guy until you were. Although, and I don't know if I'm going crazy with this one, that line is in the trailer. That line is also in his flashback, but I don't think she says that line that way in the scene. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but I think in the actual scene, she says, you were never the right guy. And then it ends. But then when he remembers it later, it's until you were. And maybe that's what they're going for, but it just, I don't know, it felt weird. So Wolverine kind of believes in himself, but not yet. You would assume then, how this next fight's gonna play out is all the cool guys, everybody, Blade, Elektra, the Gambit, Laura, and Deadpool are all gonna get in the van, they're gonna leave Wolverine at home, and he's just gonna, be drinking and be sad and whatever. Maybe he's gonna look at some memorabilia or something that's like the Logan comic book from Logan and go like, oh man, these people, they think I'm cool. Whatever, doesn't matter. But at that time, all the other guys are gonna go have this big fight with the Cassandra Nova team, and they're gonna lose until a critical moment when Wolverine shows up at the very end to save everybody because he had this realization that he has to be part of the fight and whatever. And then everything turns in our hero's favor. Like, that's how a scene like that goes. What I think is so weird is they sneak that moment into the very beginning, before the fight's even started, where everybody gets out of the truck, and then just Wolverine gets out of the trunk. And it's a surprise to us, the audience, that he's there, because they weren't talking to him or about him. It seems maybe to be a surprise to them, but like, why? Who cares? Who is this for besides just to make the moment more dramatic? But like, the way that becomes more dramatic is not that Thor shows up in Infinity War right as the battle starts and they're like, oh good, Thor's here too. Thor shows up at a critical moment where all hope is lost and then kicks serious ass and kills everybody. Like, that's how these movies go. And I do feel like that him coming out of the van, I didn't hate it, but it felt like a moment that the movie knew had a bunch of dramatic weight, but it just like didn't. The movie thought it should. And the way that the music crescendoed and then dropped out and then it gets out and it's like boom, but it just didn't feel like it was as significant as the movie thought it was. I don't know, it was weird. Those, I think, are the two fault points in these arcs for Deadpool and Wolverine. And I'm gonna say nice things because I did enjoy the movie, but these, having watched it again, those are the two takeaways that I have. Is that there's 2 points where it really feels like we're gonna get character arcs from these guys that have been pretty well defined. And for whatever reason, the movie just kind of goes like, oh, let's just do something else. Like, well, you know what, let's not bother with that. Let's just do it. He's already in the van, whatever. You know what, they all want to join him anyway, whatever. I think Cassandra Nova is also a victim of this. The Cassandra Nova, Matthew McFadden, like, seesaw of power is weird in this movie, right? In terms of just being villains. They are both, and even Deadpool says this when he sees Cassandra Nova. He's like, oh, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but we already have a British villain in this movie. Matthew McFadden is the bad guy. I don't know, it's not clear to me, but it seems like maybe in earlier versions of the script he wasn't a bad guy. I've heard since the movie has come out that there were maybe versions of the script where the TVA was trying to put together a team to defeat Kang, but obviously for many reasons that is not what we got. And if that was the case, then I imagine Paradox would have been more of just a benevolent character, whereas here he is a seemingly benevolent character who actually wants to, do this weird power grab with the Time Ripper. Do you have him setting up the Time Ripper in the basement? A machine I assume he has to use, right? Because, like, no one else can use it but him. Cassandra Nova goes good. Cassandra Nova has her moment where she's like, you know what? I'm going to be merciful because of Charles, and I got this ring from the wizard. You guys go home. They go home. Then they have to stop Paradox from activating the Time Ripper that he has and he wants to use to destroy Wade's reality. Like, the stakes are already very strong. We are very bought into this. Wolverine is bought into this because he cares now. Cassandra Nova doesn't really matter anymore, which is fine, because these are things Paradox has already wanted us to turn on the machine. Well, where did the Deadpool core come from? Well, it does kind of make a little bit more sense if Paradox brings the Deadpool core than Cassandra Nova, because they don't work for Cassandra Nova. We know that they're, you know, weird wild cards and they do their own thing, like Nicepool tells us that. But Paradox is the character that keeps sending Deadpools to this zone. He seems to know who they are. If he wanted an army of wild cards to stop Deadpool that could maybe keep Deadpool on his toes, he would get other Deadpools, right? I'm not saying, okay, all I'm saying is, this isn't me trying to one small change or anything. I'm just saying, there's nothing that Cassandra Nova brings back. She has a very good arc, I think, or like that moment with Charles, he would have loved you, like taking off the helmet. That's great. And I think that is pretty strong, the character development for Wolverine and for her. And then, and by the way, I know that the actor is non-binary. I'm just calling Cassandra Nova her because that's traditionally how that character works. And, you know, this is Cassandra Nova. I don't want to seem like I'm like ignoring it. And you know what? To be fair, it's Johnny, so he might not know. But we do get a little bit of pronoun game with Cassandra Nova. Speaking of cinema sins, which I hate when they do this, but I do think that this is not the worst idea they've ever come up with. Is this idea that like sometimes when a character in a script wants to hide something, they play the pronoun game, which means for no good reason they just all start talk about her. And you'll work for her. And it's like, who's that? You could just say Cassandra, but it's got to be dramatic. So, you know, that's where the character's pronouns come from, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. What I'm saying is, we have a good arc for Cassandra. No reason at all for her to come back and try to rip up the universe the way the Paradox was planning to do anyway. Just have Paradox do that. I don't understand it as a movie move. Let's see. Other stuff I don't understand. What's going on with that first scene? Not the Logan scene. I think that's great. This scene in Happy's office. Deadpool is in the 616 universe. He has traveled to, and I'm not saying all of this needs to make sense in terms of like, I don't think this all needs to connect neatly to everything else in the MCU. Now, I guess not as much as if like a character had a cameo in, you know, Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then they showed up in Secret Invasion. You'd kind of expect there's the same character or something like that. That's a bad example because they did that with a character and it didn't really work. But overall, you kind of assume outside of What If and maybe X-Men 97, everything in the MCU is in continuity. But this scene might have just been for fun. It's setting up this arc for Deadpool again that I said like. So then we get this intro where Happy's like, you can't be an Avenger. They don't need you. First of all, why is Deadpool going to the 616 universe to be an Avenger? But second, what is the Avengers now? Is Happy just the guy in charge of HR for the Avengers that is who? And why are we refusing Deadpool? He has special forces training. He has a super healing factor. Sure, he's not like all together, but also like, I don't know, if we're taking meetings, I feel like he's at least worth talking to a little bit more. And yes, he only wants to do it because he wants to impress his girlfriend, but I guess that bit of movie, I'm not gonna say it doesn't work for me. Here's what it is. That bit of movie feels like it's written, instead of for Jon Favreau, Kevin Feige would be behind that desk. And it would take place in our universe. And that would be the movie starting. Deadpool's managed to, you know, open up a pocket dimension or something, very much like She-Hulk, and he's made it into, kicked open the Disney Plus, maybe even found the door that She-Hulk went through. And then he goes to either actual Kevin Feige or the robot, and he's like, I want to join the Avengers. And they're like, you're not that kind of guy. Like, you got to figure out who you are first. I guess the fact that it was Happy, like, it was cute as a cameo, but it was weird. Yeah, him doing that felt strange. I enjoyed it though, more or less. I liked that all of the artifacts, seeing the little, you know, perpetual motion thingy, like the desk ornament from Iron Man 2, the shield from Iron Man 2. Love it. Love all that stuff. Okay, so let's talk about other things I like, because those are my like big kind of nitpicks with the movie. And I guess I wouldn't say those are nitpicks, because I think those are like actual plot things. A nitpick is like, hey, Johnny Storm is almost no universe where Johnny Storm can be overpowered in that way by Pyro. But that's a nitpick, because again, who cares? You know, like a nitpick would be, hey, Wolverine can't slash through the Juggernaut. He just can't. Neither can Laura. Speaking of things that were weird, okay, this isn't going to just be complaining about the Deadpool movie. When Peter shows up at the end, I think it's cute. And I like Pete, a character that I feel like at least somewhere I've seen labeled as Pete Wisdom, which is such a weird, like it's the name Peter, and then maybe someone looked it up and went, oh, there's a guy named Pete Wisdom, but like, you know, X-Men stuff, that's not who that is. But either way, he shows up to save Deadpool from being killed by the Deadpool Corps. Deadpool and Wolverine have to fight through the Deadpool Corps to get to the subway entrance. They get there. They fight everybody in the Deadpool Corps except for Baby Pool is like dead, and you know they're getting back up and they're kind of regrowing their limbs and cracking their arms back into place. But like, this wasn't about killing them. This was about closing the distance and like getting past them so that you can go down into the subway, which is where they are. And having Peter come in and like be the thing is cute, but I just don't fully understand why in the movie that's not like, victory, let's run into the subway terminal and do that. And maybe this is, you know, I said earlier, you always go for the joke. I guess for me, I do think it kind of fought against the momentum of the whole thing, and it felt like a joke that didn't fully work for me. Like, I liked having him in the Deadpool suit. I thought that was cute. But it just felt so convenient that honestly, that feels like one of those moments where Deadpool should have looked at the camera and went, is this really what we're doing? Oh, whatever. I do think there were some really funny Deadpool quips and like reactions. I think is what makes this movie work so well, from Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool has one that really sneaks by you when they're driving towards Cassandra's base the second time, like in the truck, or you know, Honda Odyssey or whatever it is. They're talking about something, I can't remember what, but you get to that moment where they're driving towards the Cassandra's hideout or whatever. I wouldn't call it a hideout, but it's funny because the line that I think is so great, that might be like my new favorite line in the movie, because obviously there's some great stuff that everybody in my theater loved. The proposal, everybody loves that. Who's your dialect coach to the Minions? I would say that might have gotten the biggest reaction from my theater in terms of just a straight line. But I loved when they're talking and Gambit saying like, we all go die today and this is going to be the end of us in the thing. And Deadpool kind of starts just going, and Blade starts getting up to aim the rocket, and Deadpool's line is something along the lines of, all right, yeah, pan the camera up to Blade. And it's just a really funny, like really cute, quick, matter-of-fact line that is so easy to miss. But this is what I love about these Deadpool movies. They take a million shots at jokes, and like ones you don't recognize on your first, your second watch, you may hear them again and go, oh, that's great. I think my favorite reaction in the movie came from Wolverine, for sure. Hugh Jackman is fantastic in this movie, and I think like the scene where he, and this isn't what I'm talking about, but the scene where he yells at Deadpool in the Odyssey, the big monologue that ends with, is that all you got to say, mouth, or whatever, that was really good, and like felt really angry. That also felt really true to just base Wolverine. I've been saying this, but like obviously X2 is my favorite movie with Wolverine in it. I think Logan is the best movie about Wolverine. I think this is the best Wolverine in a movie. But what I mean is, I think while X2 Wolverine is very good, Logan Wolverine is not base Wolverine. That is like a specific version of Wolverine. Whereas this feels like just taking a shot at saying, let's throw Wolverine into one of these movies. And I think it was really good. Like, I think it was the costume, the voice, like the brutality, just the attitude. I loved it. Okay, so but the line that I loved, all the stuff happens with Johnny. Very dramatic, obviously. It's very built up. Like, flame on. You know, Pyro sucks all the fire out of Johnny Storm and just falls to the ground. Hits his head a bunch of times on the way down. There's just a little pause. And then Logan says, we don't know that guy. And I think it's so fun. It's something about the way that it feels so matter of fact. And also as an admission of like, yeah, we don't know him. Sorry. It seems important, but this is not, whatever you have to him, don't apply it to us as well. I thought that was great. So now I've spent a lot of time complaining about all the character stuff I didn't like. Let's talk about the character stuff I did like. And let's talk about like spoilery stuff, cameos, all that. Like I said, didn't love Jon Favreau. But pretty much every other cameo in this worked for me except for one. And I don't think he's bad in this or anything, but I do think during the Wolverine montage, the Power of Love, where Deadpool is going and visiting all of the other Wolverines, Cavill being there feels a little weird. Not because he's bad. I like that he's there. I like that he's smoking. I think that's interesting. It's the first time Wolverine's done that in a while. I guess it's just like you can either do all of them are Wolverine, all of them are Hugh Jackman, or all of them are different multiverse versions. Like every other actor you ever wanted. Daniel Radcliffe, Tom Hardy, obviously that one guy whose name I can't remember, whose name I think is like Cedric Diggory, and that's not what it is. That's a fictional guy. Dougray Scott, he should be there. That would be the place for those. Other actors that have always wanted to be Wolverine, Danny DeVito, like just guys like that, where it'd be like fun to see them dressed up as Wolverine. I understand why they didn't do that, but if you're not going to do that with everybody, I do think the Henry Cavill cameo felt a little weird. Also, I think if Deadpool didn't say, oh my god, it's Henry Cavill, it would have taken me a while to place who that was, which is never a great sign for the cameo. I think there were things maybe he could have done to be more direct, but I don't know. It was okay. I think all the other versions look great. That John Byrne in the brown and yellow looks so great. That comic cover with the Wolverine claws reflecting Hulk's like one of my favorite, probably my favorite individual cover in comics, and it's cool to see here. I think having Age of Apocalypse Wolverine is cool. Crucified Outback Wolverine is cool. It's just funny. I think it's a funny like gag to see him just go, who is this? Small Wolverine is fun. I liked all that. Let's talk about the variants from the other timelines. I think Jennifer Garner's good in this. It's so funny that she is the one actor, I don't remember when, but when asked was like, I am in Wolverine, Deadpool, isn't that fun? And everybody went, what? She was like, oh, never mind. I'm not supposed to say anything about that. But like, I think that was the only cameo or thing like this that I got fully confirmed from her, obviously. And they said they had fake leaks going out there, although I do think the fake leaks is tricky. You're playing a dangerous game because your fake leaks may turn out to be something people really want. Taylor Swift is a good example, and I'm not convinced they weren't leaving the door open for her. I don't think it's a coincidence that we never saw the face of Ladypool, which isn't to say that I think like it's a conspiracy, but I could see a world where they wanted to do Ladypool and they wanted it to be Taylor Swift, but they didn't know if she was going to do some other Marvel thing that she might maybe be in the running for. Maybe it's a Dazzler thing, but maybe it's this, secret agent for the 50s blonde Phantom show that people have suggested she might be interested in. And maybe because of that, Marvel's like, well, we should probably hold on to that. Let's have Blake Lively do the Ladypool. Just a guess. Just my, thought. But like, the idea of putting on a fake leak is dangerous because it might be better than what you're doing. Like, you have to have so much confidence in what you're doing. So like, yeah, it worked mostly with those leaks. But I do think that Jennifer Garner was fine. I've never been incredibly connected to those Daredevil. I like that Daredevil movie, and I think she's fine in it. I've never seen Elektra. It's like the one superhero movie I've never watched. I've watched Steel, watched all the rest of these. But for whatever reason, it just never came up. I should probably watch it one of these days. That being said, I like her. I'm glad anybody who came back for this, I'm automatically like, you're cool. Well, let's not go that far. But I'm like, good for you. Like, you're on board. You're a good sport. Because I imagine the way they did this, because this did not feel like that scientific, right? I have a feeling they made a list. And they went, we're going to get as many of these guys as we can. And we will fit them in. And we'll work around their schedules and stuff. But once we finalize who our guys are, that's it. But like, if Ben Affleck said yes, I bet they would have gotten him or something like that. That's kind of what it feels like to me. And not to say like, well, these guys are like the ones who showed up. They're kind of scrubby. Just to say that, or this team did not have a Ghost of Christmas, past, present, and future kind of thing. Like, I think they almost did that. I think you could have gotten away with that with Lou Ferrigno, Blade, and then Gambit as a like far past, current day, modern era, and then, movie yet to come, or whatever we're calling that Gambit era. But I think, I think with Jennifer Garner and Blade, those movies were like out in theaters around the same time. I can't imagine Blade 3 was anywhere more than 4 or 5 years. Blade 3 can't have been more than 2 years away from Daredevil. They may have come out in the same year. So if that's the case, it's like, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's as deliberate. Anyway, I think she was good. I liked her. I think she had the least to do in the fort, in like the big fight, but she's cool. She had a little size. She seemed into it. Good. Happy to see her. Obviously, Chris Evans was fantastic. He's so funny. He's so goddamn funny, that man. He's too funny. He's too handsome. He's too funny. And like his little monologue at the end about what Cassandra Nova could do to him. I don't care if she rips all my skin off. Like, so funny. He's got such a good attitude, and I think it reminds me of like Lucas Lee, but also the Jake Weiler, like the days when Chris Evans played a bad guy, or at least a jerk. He's really good at that. His Johnny was kind of a jerk too, although his Johnny was more of like a pretty boy, I guess. I guess that's kind of what Jake Weiler is too, but either way, he was super funny, and I just really enjoyed his scene. I think it looked great, that effect looks good, and I think his new costume looked good. I think it looked fine. It's like a little kind of Fantastic Four-ish costume that you can maybe confuse for Captain America from a distance. Good. Blade. I don't know what the deal is with Wesley Snipes. I genuinely am not sure. I've heard, like, read all kinds of things about, you know, obviously he had the, tax evasion is a weird one, but whatever. And obviously there's all stuff about the Blade Trinity movie, which we've heard many times from Patton Oswalt and people that worked on it, where he was just, like, Wesley Snipes was a disaster to work with. And, you know, maybe that's not all on him, but it seemed pretty weird. And like, I got that joke was very good. I think everybody in my theater, not everybody, I guess a lot of people got that joke where he says like, I never liked you, you never did. And then there was this nice little beat to enjoy that. I think that simmered well. There have been other allegations about him that make me a little less psyched to see him back in this. The problem is they're just vague enough that there's a little bit of deniability. I'm not going to get into them now, but I'm sure if you Google, you'll see what it is. So it's the only thing that made me not psyched about seeing him. That being said, also he has that line, there's only one Blade, there's only ever going to be one Blade. A, Mahershala, ha ha ha. B, there was a Blade show, right? Did I not hallucinate that? I don't remember watching it. I think it was on MTV or something, and it existed. But, you know, like, he could have been here. If you walk through those doors, like, that would have been pretty funny if they had a cameo that was so obscure not even actual fans like myself would recognize it. That would have been cool. Overall, I think he was fine. I mean, he got all the cool moments. Well, not all the cool moments, but he got a lot of the cool moments in the fight, killing Toad, using that, you know, whatever that is, that boomerang knife thing that was sick. Some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill. He was good. He had that. There's that bit where he shot the gun on the Panther. Wow, that was great. But obviously the standout is Gambit, Channing Tatum Gambit. Now I have not changed my mind on this. I don't think he would have been a great Gambit, just because I just don't think he's got the body for it. Which is to say, Gambit's a little leaner, a little skinnier, you know? And that's not anything against Channing Tatum, but Channing Tatum just, you could see it in that big giant plasticky neck thing, his little neck sock, which I think looked great. I think the Gambit costume looked terrific. But that's always been my one problem with him, is he just doesn't have that lean kind of acrobat. Like, he could, I guess, but it just doesn't seem like where he is at now. And that made me kind of see it. That being said, I think his accent was fun. I think it was very hard to parse, but purposefully so. I do think a lot of his improving lines about things his daddy did, again, I don't want to get demonetized, but like, there's a lot of things I could say. Like, lines I remember pretty well, but I'm just not going to say now. The one that ends with, and it said, "What's up, Doc?" That line is great. I love the idea that he is just born in the void. Like, he never existed, but he is here anyway. And yeah, I thought all his action scenes were great. Just that one bit, without even showing, like, him, you know, doing any of the actual cool stuff, just the bit where he fans out the cards in slow motion, gorgeous. The bit after he explodes all the guys, where he does a little turn and chucks a card that explodes a whole portion of, like, the, you know, rafters or whatever, looks great. Like, just that kind of style, it felt very lively, and I really liked it. And yeah, I think his costume is really cool. I liked how gory he was able to be. It was a huge improvement over Taylor Kitsch. I do kind of feel bad for Taylor Kitsch, because, like, if he had showed up, no one would have cared. I mean, people would have cared, I guess, but there's so much, it treaded a very fine line between, hey, wasn't it kind of silly back in the day when they thought Gambit was going to be a movie and Channing Tatum was going to do it, as opposed to, hey, wasn't this version of Gambit from X-Men Origins bad? Like, that's not really what they did with this, and I, kind of appreciate that. That being said, I do think there was room for that. I think we could have gotten Barakapool back as the final boss of the Deadpool Corps or something, right? And he doesn't even need to fight Deadpool. Deadpool doesn't need to be like, oh, it's you. But just like A, personal stakes, right? That's the guy that kind of set him on this path. But B, I think it could be cute if they hug or something. He forgives him for all the jokes and such, and I don't know. I'm a little surprised we didn't see Barakapool. But yeah, Gambit was terrific. I hope we see him in something again. I just don't know when we would. And I guess I'm cool with a one-off. I'm really glad for Channing Tatum. He seems like he really had fun with this. And I think this is a role that we will remember for a while. We'll all be like, man, he was great as Gambit that one time. And yeah, and Gambit's a silly character, Cajun, the outfit, the whole thing. So it's good that he fit right in. Then you had Laura, Daphne Keane, less of a presence than I expected, especially in some of the big fights. She didn't have a ton of big moments. Also, she didn't get to go back with them through the portal. I really thought she was going to make it and then help them fight all the other Deadpools. Maybe her and Dogpool or something would team up. I don't know. It's just wishful thinking there. But I also kind of wish we saw her suit or something. But I did like that she got to cut Juggernaut's feet off. That was cool. And she didn't do a fastball special, but she was vaulted by Blade, so that's nice. She still has the glasses and all that. I'm glad for the actor that she got to play this role again. I could see a world where Daphne Keane makes it to the MCU. Like Ryan Reynolds, I bet will, and actually make it to the MCU. I think we'll retire Hugh Jackman after Secret Wars or whatever, but I wouldn't be too upset if the first Wolverine in the MCU is her. And she's continuing the legacy of this old Wolverine, and maybe, a different Wolverine can show up later, a different actor. But I think she seems very committed to the role. Glad they put her in the trailer so she could go to the premiere. That's fun. Other cameos, Rob McElhenney. Okay, so Mac from Always Sunny, good friends with Ryan Reynolds. They own the football team together and stuff. According to legend, he had a cameo that was cut, which I think is funny. First of all, I like having your friend come to set, do a cameo and then it not making it to the movie is cute. I don't think we know who this is, although two things that we know is a TVA agent. We've seen him in the scene, and it was a scene with Wolverine. So there's not a lot of TVA agents and Wolverine in the same scenes, especially not in the Wasteland. I'd have to assume he's the TVA agent from that first or maybe second trailer that gets eaten by Goliath, and maybe we never even saw his face, but that would be him. And then it's well, where's that guy been? I do think in that caravan with all the, ice cream truck and the Hydra car or whatever, there were the balls that were, the prison balls for Wolverine, Deadpool, and Human Torch. They were all in one. There was another one with somebody in it. I bet that would have been Rob McElhenney. And it's a bummer that he didn't get to be in the movie, but hey, maybe now he can be, I don't know, Gambit in the next one of these or something. Or maybe that can be it. Maybe in every Deadpool movie he shows up, is in the trailer pretty heavily, and then just gets cut out of the movie. That'd be cute. All the Deadpool Corps was fine. I do think we kind of rushed through those. It was okay. I will say, I've heard people critiquing the actual fight scenes themselves, and I think they're super all over the place. I think the first fight scene, Bye Bye Bye, is great. Very creative, because it's the credits, everything has to be pretty slow, and you get a lot of time to kind of enjoy everything. I think it's very, I like that we used every bit of Wolverine's corpse, so the fingers and the actual, blades, using the legs as nunchucks was very clever. I like that we just cut away to him dancing. I think that was cute. I think the fight between Wolverine and Deadpool, the first one, is staged very well, or at least pretty well, for a fight that they really wanted to do in the bright of day. I think there were enough cool moments where Wolverine kind of runs at him, and that was fun. And then the fight between Wolverine and Deadpool in the car, I thought was also really good. There were plenty of long takes. It was another one of those things where they tried everything. Deadpool got every weapon and they fought in every part of the car. Loved that move where Wolverine smashes into the car to make the airbag go, and then you see him jump right in. That's a very fun image. I do think the fights after that, which is two, the fights at the Void in the Cassandra Nova's fortress, and then the fight on the street, a little weird. Fight in the Void felt like it was all very close. It felt like the cameraman, needed to take a step back, but it felt like they did, which feels true to some other parts of this movie, is they just shot a lot of this practically people in a set running around, because it's impressive. Everybody's doing stuff at the same time, right? Like you can see Channing Tatum doing Gambit stuff behind a shot that is focused on Elektra. So I appreciate that. But I look back at a movie like Birds of Prey that also manages to do that, and it's in a fight. Like that does focus more on individual members of the team, where if you pay attention, you can see somebody else. I just feel like this fight didn't feel super focused. There were shots that led into other shots where like a character would be running, then we'd cut to a wide shot where they're standing still. It's a small thing, but it's like stuff like that makes it feel less intentional, and it feels like they have a bunch of action sequences and like a bunch of bits of Jennifer Garner twirling around and stabbing a guy and Blade doing a stab, but they just kind of put them all together. The other one, the one later with Deadpool and Wolverine fighting all the Deadpools, is the opposite of that because it's super prepared. My problem with that one was if it was just one of them, or if there was always one in frame and one just out of frame, I think it would be fine. But because there were two things happening at once, I found myself having to constantly check back and forth to see which one was like the main one. I knew there was a Deadpool thing happening in the foreground, but then I was like, I should probably be watching Wolverine, right? Also, it really doesn't help that Deadpool looks like the other Deadpools, although what are you gonna do? I do think they differentiate him well enough with like just space. But the idea that like this fight is happening on two different planes and they're all more or less in focus makes it really hard to track. And then they were in the bus, and I get it, it's fine. But I just wish there was a little bit more clarity in that fight. I guess I wish there was more clarity in both fights, but it's not the same lack of clarity in both fights. The lack of clarity of the first one comes from everything being a little close. Like there's some shots that I think are good. A lot of the shots with Gambit really highlight Gambit doing cool stuff. But I do think a lot of the Elektra stuff, Deadpool and Wolverine fighting in that scene just didn't really stand out. And then, yeah, that's another problem with this other one. Also, you didn't get to see Deadpool running around with a gun in his mouth. That's kind of a bummer. What else? Let's see. I have like a whole bunch of notes. Good that it ends in a train station, because these movies where you have to sacrifice yourself are about trains. Cute. Hunter BX15 or whatever her name is. Fine. Little cameo. It's pretty clear watching this movie that this has been written and rewritten enough that so many things had to be moved because of like where it came out in relation to Loki or what happened with Kang, that I guess Hunter felt kind of like they were one of those characters who was brought in to clean all of that up, and I didn't mind it too much. I do think when Deadpool is like, hey, can you fix Wolverine's universe? And Hunter says, well, then that would change the man he already is. I feel like the rules of that we've established are no, it wouldn't. And if we put him back in that universe right before the bad thing happens, he has the character development, he'll be happy. But they just want to keep him around. I think that's fine. The soundtrack was fun. I do think kind of all over the place. I was really hoping we would get more Greatest Showman or more of a musical number. I liked NSYNC. Obviously, like T.I. is another musician from my childhood. But, you know, it was fine. I think the Bye 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 is going to go down as the memorable bit. Even though I do think Like a Prayer was very well used in the trailer and also in the moment in the movie itself. Also, the costume looks so goddamn good. That Wolverine costume was perfect. When he lost the sleeves, which I didn't love, and I understand why we have them, but I didn't love them. When he lost those and then put that helmet on, for a second, I didn't love the look of the helmet, but then when we see it in profile, it looks so perfect. Then everything after that, I think it works. I appreciate that we put whatever that is, helmet mask. I don't know what we're calling that. I just want to point out, the Deadpool costume has like always been perfect. That costume, since the first movie, has been more or less exactly what that needed to be. And we can't give them credit now because that's like, yeah, it's a Deadpool costume, whatever. But like, going back almost 10 years, they nailed it in one. I guess technically they did the X-Men Origins, but like when they actually went and made a Deadpool movie, they gave him such a good costume, and it was such a superhero-y costume at the time. The costumes, the X-Men were very superhero-y. I don't think you can completely say that Deadpool deserves credit, or all the credit, for restarting this like unapologetically silly looking comic book stuff. But I think it deserves some for sure. I'd have to look at the timeline and see where other characters were, but like this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know, they're doing Doctor Strange at this point, Captain America, where everybody's got either a bunch of robes or like we're working backwards from Captain America's military outfit and stuff, whereas this, it felt just like he has a Deadpool outfit. He decided to make it, and he did. Kind of like in the Spider-Man movies, although I think this even looks better than that. I think these two might be some of the best superhero costumes in any movie ever. And specifically with adaptation, like thinking about how to adapt those in mind, I think they looked phenomenal. Other notes. So we have the idea of anchor beings now. I don't know what that means. I think some Matt Shakman asked about this, the director of WandaVision, and then the new Fantastic Four movie, which looks incredible. I saw the leaked trailer. I'm so in love with it, and Michael Giacchino and stuff. So good. I think Matt Shakman said that Scarlet Witch is the anchor being of our universe. Sure. I don't think that concept is really going to matter as much, again, because that felt like something they wrote to smooth out whatever was changed because of Kang and because of schedule and all of that. You know, I do think our anchor being could be Tony Stark, and then that could be, you know, there's a lot of things you could tie to that with the new Robert Downey Jr. thing, but it does feel like a concept that, like, I hope we never see again. You know, we'll see. I'll say if I have like a gripe, my biggest gripe about this movie, I'm happy that we got to spend time with Elektra and Blade, X-23 especially, and Gambit. Talking about how much I love them. Nice pool was fun. I like Deadpool supporting cast. I like Cable and Domino. I think we can get rid of Cable's, you know, I'm taking it or leaving on Cable, honestly. But Domino I love. I have a Domino action figure. Can't see her super well, but she's right there. I just wish that, like, she was in this, because she is a member of his, like, he has that moment where he's like, these are the 9 people that matter to me. And it's like, one of them's like the tough guy who's like the extra, and one of them's Shatterstar, and you don't really like him anyway. And I think it's fine that he's here, but like, what about Domino? We liked her. She wasn't from another universe, and I think she lives around here, right? Let's get her. And I'm sure Zazie Beetz couldn't do it. But then this movie also wrote Miranda Bakarin out of everything. She's a superhero. She can have superpowers. It's not, maybe she doesn't want to do it, and maybe it's a time thing. And again, it's hard to criticize the movie and say they should have done all this other stuff when a lot of the stuff they did I really liked. I don't think the Deadpool side characters, besides Peter, were integrated into this movie particularly well, especially since the final fight takes place around Deadpool's house. Why isn't Colossus there for that? Why aren't all of his friends who hate him there for that? Like, it's Deadpool and Wolverine, I get it, those two working together, but like, yeah, have Shatterstar and Colossus show up, and he's, you know, like, you can't help, and he's like, oh, trust me, Wade, I've been thinking about how I'm gonna beat you up for a very long time. This is, we're all very excited about this. Like, you know, Negasonic Teenage Warhead has a huge smile on her face, like, what? You never smile. I'm smiling today because I get to kill you and samurai you and cowboy you. It's gonna be awesome. Like, I don't know, you know, it's hard to complain about it because I do think overall this movie was successful and it made $1 bazillion. So I just think overall my thoughts on the movie are that it's very funny. The things people laugh at are funny. The costumes are fantastic. The arcs are almost there, but again, at the midpoint, it feels like we did lose something. And it had that. It was very brisk in a way that I liked, but that would have been a nice time to slow down. I think the soundtrack was fun. I think the action was 50-50. All the other MCU, you know, connections were fine. I'm sure they will show up in Secret Wars. You know, overall, I came out of this movie having a good time, and I continue feeling that way. If someone thinks the movie has flaws, I get it. If it's so poorly put together in terms of like the plot that they can't enjoy the jokes, then like, yeah, it's not going to work for you. But I do think in this time only, until maybe they do another one of these, or another straight comedy like She-Hulk was a comedy, I am okay with sacrificing certain things to get good jokes in, is what I'm saying at the end of the review, where I spent like an hour talking about all the things I wish they had done differently, and like the things that I think they did weird, and then also talk about the jokes I liked. So like, you know, maybe the things that I would have liked for them to put in got cut out for jokes. I don't know. We'll never know. I want those action figures. I'm getting the Wolverine, the Colossus, and the Deadpool. I hope they make more. Yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I think it was pretty good. I think it was definitely what Marvel needed, because it's going to make a lot of money and get people excited. And it was fun. Like, these movies at the end of the day are supposed to be fun. Sometimes they're thought-provoking and you know, they touch your heart. And this one did do that for a lot of people, especially with the little montage of all the X-Men stuff from previous X-Men movies, which I liked. But at the end of the day, you know, these are entertaining movies, and I think this one was quite entertaining. I don't think I'd take it over Guardians, but I'd definitely take it over, you know, Quantumania. So that's kind of where I am compared to other movies. I will say, like, I am so excited about Fantastic Four, and I think everyone will be once we see more of that footage. But that's it. Thank you all for watching. I know this has been very long. It took me a little while to put this together. but I had to really think about it, sit on this stuff. I talk about this at length on my podcast, mostly Nitpicking, where I pick apart a piece of pop culture. You can find it wherever you listen to your podcasts. Likes, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.